David here with Figboot on Pens, back again with another fountain pen review. Today I have for you a look at an Italian brand I've yet to review, and that is Maiora. And the pen that I'll be showing you today is called the Alpha. What I'm going to do today is talk a little bit about the company, go over the parts and features of the Alpha, talk about what I care for and what I don't care for about it. I'll show some measurements, size comparisons, and provide a writing sample. Thanks go out to the good folks at Atlas Stationers in Chicago for providing this pen for review. Maiora is an Italian brand based in Naples with some familiar roots. The gentleman behind the brand is Nino Marino, who was one of the co-founders of the Italian brand Delta. After the demise of Delta, the two founders went their separate ways, with one beginning Leonardo and Nino starting Maiora. Maiora actually acquired the rights to Nettuno, one of the oldest fountain pen brands in Italy. They revived that brand and began producing new pens under both Maiora and Nettuno brand names. Just a few months ago, he also purchased the complete rights to Delta, which included the intellectual property as well as the equipment and machinery. So we'll see, but this would most likely mean that down the line we will be seeing pens under the name of Delta again in the fairly near future. But like I said, the pen I have to show you today is from Maiora, and it is called the Alpha. It arrives in this box. The sleeve slides off. And then we have a cardboard box here that opens up. Inside there is a use and care guide, as well as some information about the pen and the company. And then we have the pen. This is the Alpha. It is available in a few different materials. There is the Orancio, which apparently means orange gold in Italian. Then there is the Oro Blu, which is blue gold. There is Oro Grigio for the gray gold. The Nera model is black. And then there are three models named after Italian cities and towns. There is the Ercolano. Then there is the Pompeii. And finally, Amalfi. The model I have in my possession is the Oro Grigio, the gray gold. You can see the roots of this model originated with Delta. It is certainly Delta inspired, with the wheeled clip and the raised band, which you'll get a closer look at here in a minute. The material for the Alpha line is what is called spaghetti resin. A number of these colors have been kind of cut up and reassembled into a solid resin with a mosaic look. There's black and a few different shades of gray. It's an interesting look. It's reminiscent of the Leonardo Mosaico, which I reviewed a couple of weeks back. Let's take a look at the top of the cap. It comes to a rounded cone point. That transitions into the clip band and the clip. The clip is very reminiscent of Delta's standard clip, though it is slightly wider at the top and a bit longer. But like Delta, it has the wheel on the end. The cap angles up slightly until you reach a thinner band. Then there's a thicker raised band, and then there's another thinner band. This band has an interesting pattern. On the back side, it's stamped with 925. This indicates that the band is sterling silver and it's gold plated. The rest of the trim on this pen is solid brass with gold plating. There is a medium-sized step down to the barrel, which is straight for about 1.5 inches before tapering down. And at the end, there is another thin band, and at the end of the barrel, like the top of the cap, it comes to a coned, rounded point. The cap twists off with a single rotation, and underneath we have this number 6 nib. I believe it's a Jovo nib, engraved with the Maiora logo and name. The nib is available in extra fine, fine, medium, broad, and a 1.1 stub. And then here's a look at the plastic feed. The section begins with a very slight flare. It angles up ever so slightly until you reach the plastic threads, and then there is a rounded band which facilitates the medium-sized step up to the remainder of the barrel. I will say that there's a bit of a manufacturing defect with the model I have here in my hand. I realize it's a bit hard to see here, but I noticed on this particular pen that the section was affixed slightly askew. Upon closer examination, you can see where the barrel meets the back portion of the section, not the portion that unscrews. You could see how it wasn't quite flush when they were glued together. It doesn't affect the performance at all, but for this particular pen, I could tell that something just seemed a little bit off. I'm going to assume that this was an issue with this specific pen rather than a feature of all pens in the Alpha lineup. This pen is comfortable in the hand. I do care for the thickness of the section. It's a bit on the girthier side, which is what I personally prefer. I don't find my grip to rest on the threads, but if yours happens to, I don't find them to be sharp or uncomfortable. The cap does post, and it does post securely. Even though the cap is rather hefty and contains a fair amount of metal, I don't find that it backweights the pen that much. Just a hair, but not enough to prevent me from using this pen posted. This is a cartridge converter pen. It accepts standard international cartridges, and a converter is provided. It's one of the converters that actually screws in. This pen is also designed to be able to be used as a eyedropper. The barrel has a decent ink capacity to it of about 5.5 milliliters. And at the end of the section here, it has an O-ring for added eyedropper safety, which is nice. The Maiora Alpha retails for $236. There's also a version with a gold nib and a piston, which retails for $692. You could definitely see the Delta influence in this pen, especially with the raised band, which Delta used a lot on their Dolce Vita models. I think the resin is interesting, but with the build quality, I just wish it was a little bit better on this section. It mars what otherwise would be a pretty solid offering. Thanks again go out to Atlas Stationers for providing this pen for review. I will put a link in the notes below where you can check it out, as well as all of the other Maiora offerings that they have on their site. Okay, now it is time for some measurements, size comparisons, and a writing sample. Here we go with some size comparisons for the Maiora Alpha. I had mentioned it bears a bit of a resemblance, at least in the material, to the Leonardo Mosaico. You can see the Mosaico is a significantly larger pen. Then this is what it looks like with a Delta Dolce Vita Stantufo Oro. And then here it is with an Aurora Optima. In regard to some other pens, here it is with a Pilot Vanishing Point and a Platinum 3776 in the Chartreuse Blue. And then here it is with a Lamy Safari, and this is in the Petrol. In regard to some uncapped comparisons, this is what it looks like with the Mosaico and the Delta. And then here it is with the Lamy Safari. So here we go with the writing sample for the Maiora. And this is the Alpha. This is a broad stainless steel nib. And the ink I'm using today is Diamine Pumpkin. This is what the ink looks like. It's one of my favorite oranges. I do think it's rather pumpkinish. It's a nice orange with just like a drop or two of red in it. Here it is compared to Papier Plume's Bloody Pumpkin. And then here it is with Ferris Wheel Press's Pumpkin Patch. This is what Diamine's 80 milliliter bottles look like. Really nice neck on them and plenty deep enough to get any nib in there. And here we go with the rest of the writing sample. I do find this broad nib to be very pleasant. You're not going to get a lot of line variation out of it, but it is very smooth. It does lay down a nice fat line. In regard to the ink flow, it's decent. In regard to some reverse writing, it's very smooth. Lays down a nice medium line. And then in regard to some fast writing, there was a little skip at the end, but other than that, the feed didn't have any issues. Okay, so there we have the Maiora Alpha. I think it's an interesting pen. I just wish this particular model, let me show you a little bit, maybe a little bit close up. You can kind of see how there's a little bit of a gap in here. So on the production quality of this particular model could have been improved, but overall I think the looks are interesting and it's an interesting brand. Okay, until next time, thanks for watching and I'll talk to you later.